Thinking of studying overseas? Watch this first.
It's expensive.
How is this competitive?
Jobs aren't guaranteed.
And scams are real.
One wrong move could cost you.
To be well informed, watch this video.
Welcome to the first Q&A session of the season.
Let's do this.
Cue my intro.
So the questions used in today's video were given to us by the Curtin students through our different social media platforms.
Question 1. What was the hardest thing when you first arrived? I'd say personally for me, when I first arrived here, I'd say as an international student was culture shock and a bit of loneliness as well. Trying to adapt to a different culture from a Southeast Asian background into more Western culture was a bit harder at first. But as time goes on and you learn to adapt and interact with more people, it becomes much more easier and you feel the loneliness a bit less and you start to adapt.
For me, it was a different type of responsibilities that I had compared to back home. I had to deal with my own registrations, looking for my own job, taking care of myself more, cooking for myself. All of these things, I used to have my parents back home and my siblings. Now, I had to do that by myself. That was a bit scary.
Yeah, gotta be a bit more independent, but perks of growing up and being overseas.
Yeah. Question number 2. Is it expensive to live here? Truthfully, it is a bit pricey to live here with all the groceries, your fun stuff, rent, all of those things. If you want a more realistic view of how it is and what it is to spend here as an international student, go check out our budgeting video and we touch more on that subject.
In my first year, it was easy for me to underestimate my cost. I didn't keep my spendings aligned, so there were some days when I didn't have enough money to buy simple things as like coffee or bread. So I would advise, keep a spreadsheet, tally up your spendings and how much you spend within a week or a month. When it comes to living expenses or trying to find a place to live, do be careful of scams, because I know a friend of mine who tried to rent a place through Facebook Marketplace and he ended up losing hundreds if not thousands of dollars. So just be aware and make sure to double check and to be very careful.
And that's a perfect link up to our third question. How hard it is to find accommodation. Personally, I'm one of the lucky ones. I live with family. I live with my older sister. And that is a big chunk of what I'm supposed to spend on here, gone.
In my case, as an international student, I do have family here, but because they're quite far away, I've lived on student accommodation within my first 2 years here. But it is important that you do not leave it to the last minute. Plan it in advance. Take at least quite a few months, if not arguably 6 months to book and register, because you don't know, you're not guaranteed your placement in the accommodation. And if you are living off campus, try to look for places that are within budget to rent or even to purchase depending on your financial situation. For me, fortunately, this year I live with my friend. He rents to me. I pay him every month. So that's a bit more according and a bit more easier.
Always be mindful of trying to find accommodation because it is very competitive here. There is such a big rental shortage. So always make sure you give yourself enough time to look for accommodation, whether it be on or off campus.
I will say you have to be as speedy as possible. If anything, it's one of your top priorities as an international student because these places will be taken straight up as soon as they're put on the market. So you want to try to be as quick as you can, as updated as you can if you're trying to find a rental place. And especially even with student accommodation, you have to, as soon as the window opens, like at midnight, you got to be there. You have to be there on the dot and be very quick and efficient.
Yeah.
Question number 4. Is it easy to find a part-time job? How was it for you, Crystal? Was it easy for you?
Based on my personal experience, it was not that easy. It took me 8 months before I even got my first interview here in Australia.
Wow.
But that doesn't mean you should give up. I went through all of my resources. Seek, LinkedIn, there's Earthwell You Learn here in Curtin.
Or in my case, just type out your resume, print it out, and you can go to these businesses or these shops accordingly and just hand it in. And that's what I did, and I got a job.
Yeah. Now we're both employed.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Crystal, in relation to jobs, you know how you say you waited for 8 months?
Yeah.
Was there any scams or any job incidents that you ran into during that process?
Actually, an acquaintance came up to me and asked if I had a job since I was an international student, and I was truthful. I was like, oh no, right now I'm struggling to find a job, I need money, all of those things. And then she was like, oh, how about I present a little job opportunity for you?
Oh.
It turns out it was an MLM scam or a multi-level marketing scam. And she was trying to get me to buy products and telling me all of those like pros and cons of buying these products and how if I have people under me, I'll have six figures within like 6 months.
Oh wow, I didn't know about any of this, Crystal. Like, did they offer you any products or any incentives for these jobs?
Basically what she was doing is that this specific company, they were selling like health products, protein shakes, whatever, like health stuff. And she was adding things to my cart and was like, if you pay this amount, we'll get you started. I was like not gullible enough to believe that, but some people out there are really good in convincing you into being part of these like pyramid schemes, MLM scams. So always have a lookout for that.
I'm pretty sure you're supposed to get paid, not paying them.
Yeah, that's not how it works, guys.
And on that note, question 5. What are the most common scams?
Do you want to kick us off, Musa?
I will do so. So the first one is fake jobs. So they are jobs that look real, but often at times they will ask for money or your own personal details. You have rental scams. So they are fake listings that pressure you to pay the deposit up front.
Oh.
Fake giveaways. I'm a victim of this sometimes, but you've won messages that make you share your own personal info or your banking info, and cheap cars. So they're listings with prices that you have to often pay for or like ask for payment before you view it.
Yeah. Another types of scams that we can see is like those government and police scams. So those weird phone numbers that call you and they like scare you into paying something or else something bad's gonna happen to you. There's the student loan scam. So fake financial aid, which offers, to ask your personal details up front and even have you pay fees up front. Also, suspicious groups.
MLM.
Yeah. People that communicate, try to build trust, and then they push you to like pay the money or join schemes. You see that there's a pattern in all this. They require you to pay up front, give all of your details up front without some type of formal agreement or formal process in regards to all of this.
And guys, back to one of the things I said with cheap cars, if some things seem too good to be true, double, triple, even quadruple check before you purchase or you view any of these listings. It's very important, and this can be applied to any other scam as well. Just make sure that you're sure of what you're seeing. And personally, as an avid online shopper, someone that uses Facebook Marketplace, Depop, Taobao, or any of these other online platforms, one thing to do is make sure you check for the authenticity of it. Look at reviews, see whether or not people are commenting on it, whether or not they've been scammed before, and just like go through it multiple times and see whether or not the product is actually what it aligns to be. Question number 6. How do I know if something is a scam? Like, how do you identify it, Crystal?
So I'm going to share to you guys a personal experience, and this happened at uni. So there were 2 people that approached me and were like, hey, we think your earrings are really pretty. After that, they're like, do you believe in God?
Oh.
Do you go to church? And they kept pushing questions about my faith. And that's when I realized it was one of the most popular scams that was happening during that time, which was the cult recruitment. And I could see that because they were being extra friendly, pushing like questions about my faith, pushing to get to know me, my uni schedule and everything.
Oh.
And they were asking for like my number, and they were asking to like hang out, like, oh my God, if you want to talk more about your faith, we can like meet up for coffee with other people from our church, which is like, that was really weird because it felt like they were kind of walling me with everyone else and I was being like isolated by myself, and that felt like very weird and overpowering and uncomfortable. And that's how you can spot it, when you feel very uncomfortable with the situation.
So here are some tips for you guys here are some tips you guys can follow if you do come across any of these red flags. So tip number 1, pause before acting. Similarly to the way that Christelle did with the call on campus, she paused and she thought about whether or not this was authentic, and you waited for a sec and then you managed to figure out it was definitely a scam.
It was weird.
Tip number 2, double check through official sources. So double check, triple check, quadruple check, do whatever it takes. And tip number 3 is ask someone if it's untrue. And did you ask someone, Kristen, like during the
Yes.
incident?
So right after that whole incident happened, I talked to my friends and everyone was like, oh my god, I experienced the exact same thing, the exact same process, the exact same compliments, the exact walling that happened. So you gotta ask the people around you. You might not know, they might have experienced the exact same thing. Now we'll move on to question number 7. What should I do if I get targeted? So in your opinion, Musa, what should I do?
Well, the most simplest thing that you can do is stay calm and give yourself some time. So do not send any of your personal info. Do not send your bank info, definitely. Check official sources online. Contact other people to know whether or not this is true or whether it's a scam. And at the end of the day, hopefully you'll be able to know whether or not it's something that you should be prioritizing or if it's a scam that you can just ignore and continue with your day.
Okay, now that we've touched very much on scams, let's move back to the student experience. Question number 8. What surprised you about studying here? So, personally, in the Philippines, the curriculum is different. You're expected to handle like 10 subjects in 1 year. And when I moved to Australia, you're only expected to do 4 units, 3-hour classes, 3-hour lectures, and I was like, this is weird. I'm not overwhelmed. I don't have too many things that I should divide my focus on. It's all the core subjects that I need for my course.
Yeah.
So what about you, sir?
I'd say personally, you realize that you have a lot more time, but at the same time, you don't actually have too much time because with the 4 units, oftentimes, because you're not being handheld, you usually feel that sense of independence and a lot of free time. But it's that independence where the university expects you to be able to manage your own time, to get your work done. And because of that, that's one of the hardest things for me here is being able to complete my work accordingly whilst trying to acknowledge that I have free time, but it's important to follow it.
So always stay organized both at home and your school life, and always double check all the important information that will be on Oasis. And also double check if the important information is actually real information.
Yeah.
Question 9. Is it hard to make friends?
Well, Crystal, I would say personally, I was able to blend in well, mix with people from different cultures, it's much more easier for you to make friends if you take an interest in where they're from and what makes them who they are. And rather than just being reserved and having a strict idea of like who you are and like your certain thoughts, it's good to be open-minded.
Unfortunately, I wasn't as open as you. I isolated myself during my first year, and I only made friends with people who were the same race as me.
Yeah.
And I just realized that didn't make me grow as a person, especially since there's a lot of ethnicities and a lot of races here in university.
If you guys want to make some friends, here are some tips. Join clubs on campus, engage in your classes with other people, and attend some events on campus. And be open to conversations. Be open-minded, as I said earlier on, and learn more about other people.
And as I mentioned before, get out of your comfort zone. It feels very isolating to just stay in places where you're comfortable. Like, look at me. I was really scared of meeting new people, and I joined Curtin now what? And I made like a really good friend in USA, and now we hang out outside of shoots. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, actually it is.
We're gonna move on to question number 10. If you could change something from your early days, what would it be?
If I could change something from my early days, Krista, I'd say definitely spending more time outside. I became so fixated on staying indoors and just getting my work done and just like relaxing that I forgot to acknowledge the idea that I'm overseas. Countless beaches for me to go and relax. There are a lot of different parks I can walk around. So it's important to just step outside, do more things for yourself, and just realize you're not only here for uni. So go out and make some memories.
Looking back, I think I would have put less pressure on myself because I was given this newfound independence. I thought that I was supposed to handle everything by myself. And over time, that became very overwhelming. During my first 2 years, I handled all of my problems, whether it be academically or personally, by myself. And that did make me break down a little bit. You need to realize that there are resources for you out there. There are so many opportunities. Don't be afraid to ask for help. One of the amazing things about universities is that they not only focus on your academic life, they're also looking out for your well-being. So always make sure to check those resources in order to make yourself feel less pressure. Well, those are all the questions that we have for today. Being an international student is a lot. There's so much to learn, but also so many good experiences that come with it.
And while there are mostly things like scams to look out for, it mostly comes down to time and a lot of effort. And if you ever come across something suspicious or had a similar experience, share it below. Just might help someone out.
We're all learning from each other.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of I'm a Curtin, Now What? And found what we shared useful.
And if you want to know more about what it's like being an international student here at Curtin,
Stay subscribed so you never miss another video.
see you in the next episode.
Bye!